Episode 214. Matt Roy, Chuck Miketinac, Don Harris on tap. You not hear me?
That's got a lot of music and not enough of you.
Oh, that's nice. You want to hear me more than the music? That's
yeah. Can't never get enough Matt Roy.
Well, you guys all, we have a lot going on for Thursday in July, which is surprising but nice. A lot of Spurs minor moves to talk about. David Jones-Garcia gets his two-way deal with the Spurs. Lindy Waters, the third, is signed to an NBA deal. If you knew who he was before 2 days ago, you are a better man than I. And then Chris Paul signing with the Los Angeles Clippers. So we'll give our thoughts on him leaving. What will his lasting impact be on the Spurs after his 82-game season, Ironman season in his year 20. Plus the Cowboys got a lot going on there. Trayvon Diggs and Micah Parsons responding to Jerry Jones and Stephen Jones's comments at the state of the Cowboys, which they did not appreciate. It's been a chippy start to camp. 2 fights already in the first 2 days of camp, which is abnormal for it happening so early on. A lot of reports that defensive ends Donovan Ezeriku and Sam Williams have been wrecking practice in good ways, except for Sam maybe being a little bit too aggressive on a couple of things. And we heard from CD and George Pickens. What's the potential for the duo this season, and CeeDee Lamb having high expectations for himself this year? So I want to start. What's the zip code 214, guys? 214. Anyone?
Dallas.
No.
I couldn't even venture a guess.
Wait.
Tuscaloosa,
do you want me to give you a hint?
Yes.
No, it's Dallas.
Let me make sure.
It's Dallas.
I'm pretty sure it's not Dallas, but
I'm pretty sure it is.
It is Dallas. You're
right.
Damn it. I got too confused.
I should have known that.
You're right. I thought it was actually, I can't say what I thought it was because that one's coming up in 2 episodes. So we'll get back to that one. We'll get to that one later. But anyway, yes, it is the Dallas area code. So 214, Dallas area code. Let's get to the 210 San Antonio, because I want to talk about the Spurs first. David Jones-Garcia gets signed to a 2-way deal. Don, I asked you at the end of the podcast on Monday if you thought that the Spurs were going to sign DJG. You said no. Why did you say no? And are you surprised that they actually ended up doing it to a 2-way deal?
Well, I said no because I didn't think they were going to give him a full guarantee. They signed him to a 2-way deal, and that's what changed. I thought he'd get it. I thought he would get a full guarantee from somebody. Obviously, he did not. And because he did not, he accepted the 2-way deal. The 2-way deal is $600,000, and he can still sign with any team that he wants that offers him a full guarantee. And the Spurs do not have the right to match. They can, if they have a good working relationship with his agent, say, okay, we'll sign him to a full guarantee too. That might be why they have the 15th spot open, and convert it to a full-time deal. But why sign him to a full-time deal if they don't have to? And that's, so the Spurs are getting the best of both worlds here. They get him for 50 games, and they get him on the cheap. And they can bring him to camp and see how he does and put him in the G League if they want to see how he does. And if he's good enough to make the roster and contribute, they have him for 50 games before they have to convert him. So I think the surprise to me, to answer your question the long way, is I think what changed is he did not get a full guaranteed offer from another team, and that was shocking to me.
Are you under the impression that if he got an offer from another team for a full contract that the Spurs would have matched and signed him?
I don't know. I don't know because he's a little undersized. I don't know how good he is defensively. They have, we're talking about the 14th,
yeah, that's
15th
what I was
guys
say.
on
We're
the
talking
roster.
about the back end.
Yeah, and
high
they've
potential
got,
guys.
They've got plenty of good players, and they are much higher on Riley Minix than most of us are. And I know they pretty much are hoping that Riley can earn a spot. So right now they have all 3 2-way deals taken up: Ingram, Minix, and Jones-Garcia.
Isn't Ingram still on a rookie deal?
Yeah, but he's a 2-way player.
Chuck, thoughts on DJG?
Yeah, I'm a little surprised too. He didn't get a full guarantee, but we see this every year. You know, if you're an undrafted, unproven guy, then you really have no leverage in these situations. You know, there's so many guys with contracts that teams are trying to figure out how to pair them, wish they hadn't paid them, that kind of stuff. I mean, look at Charles Bassey. We know he can play, and he's out looking for a job right now, right? I mean, I don't know. Did Boston end up signing him to a two-way deal? I mean, or is he still looking at this point or weighing his options? I mean, you see it every year. There are guys that can play. It's just, you know, they're not to the point where you can say they're really rotational players or somebody that you really can bank on because you don't know. There's so many unknowns. So, you know, I'm sure David Jones-Garcia doesn't mind doing it the hard way. He's done it the hard way to this point.
He has not signed with Boston yet.
Okay.
So he is still out there. I was a little surprised at the successive moves because DJG gets signed one day, the news comes out, and then the next day we hear that Lindy Waters is signed. So I was a little surprised that DJG didn't get that fully guaranteed deal to come in at 14, and they preferred to have Lindy Waters. And to Don's point, that might be kind of your best of both worlds scenario. You get to sign a guy that might have a little bit more upside that you see as a better three-point shooter. I'm not saying that this is what the Spurs think, but that this might be the line of thinking. You get a guy that you might have a little bit higher and might have more leverage in this case. And then you still get DJG to sign his two-way deal, and you get him to come to camp. And if he beats out Waters, if he's better than Waters in camp and whatnot, then maybe he gets that spot and they cut Waters. It's not like they're tied to Lindy Waters or to Jordan McLaughlin for a really long time. I mean, both those guys are going to be making less than $3 million. So it's not like they're married to either one of these players. They have the opportunity to date both of them, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, for sure. But $3 million, although not a lot of money in NBA standards, when you're talking about the bottom of the roster, that's money they want to keep. They got the biannual still left, and they got half of another exception left. They got $8 million left.
Yeah, they have a little bit of money still to play with, below the first apron. So, speaking of, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to add one more thing, but I think I forgot. So go ahead.
Speaking of, if it comes to you, let me know. Speaking of Lindy Waters the third,
it did come to me.
All right, here we go.
So let's look at what they had and what they have. Right? They lost Biyombo and Bassey.
You talking about big guys?
Yeah.
Okay.
And they replaced those two guys with Cornette and Olenek, both of whom can go outside and hit the three. So they wanted to improve three-point shooting
from the stretch 4-5 position. Yeah,
they did that with those two guys, and I think it's an overall upgrade for both of those guys. Those guys are proven veterans over Bassey and Biyombo.
Yeah, those guys are cheaper and are what they wanted Zach Collins to be, but never ended up being.
They added at the very bottom of the roster. They got DJG, Lindy Waters, Blake Wesley, Malachi Branham. 6 of one, half dozen the other, talent-wise. But these guys are specialists in that they shoot the three a lot better than those other two. And Lindy Waters is 6'6" and long and can guard, and has been well thought of in the Warriors organization, although they traded him to Detroit last year. So it's just same type of players, different
names,
roles.
different names on the back of the jersey.
Well, different. You know, you're getting guys who can shoot the three, and you're getting guys who can defend. And although Malachi and Blake was really fast, and Blake was a good guard to guard point guards.
Good dude too.
But he wasn't really long, and he wasn't really a good 3-point shooter.
So speaking of Lindy, I was yesterday years old when I learned of Lindy Waters III. I watch a lot of NBA basketball, and maybe I just didn't pay attention to the back of the bench for the Pistons or the back of the bench for the Golden State Warriors, but did not know of a Lindy Waters III until yesterday.
My litmus test is always type it into the system and see if Jack Green has it. Jack Green didn't have one.
Wasn't important enough for Jack Green to get it.
Well, no, I mean that's not necessarily true because Jack Green will shoot the water boy.
I know, that's what I'm saying.
Right. So yeah, I mean, here's a guy. He played 17 minutes a game with the Warriors before they traded him. I don't know what the situation
He never
was.
got
Detroit.
over 10 minutes a game. He got two times he went over 10 minutes a game in a game with the Pistons. And that was in the last game of the season. And it was like early March.
Yeah, I mean, they could have traded for him for all we know to get some insurance in case somebody went down while they were having a pretty good season.
He was part of the Jimmy deal. He was the 5-team Jimmy deal. That he was thrown in with the Jimmy with the Jimmy deal. So if you don't know Lindy Waters, which I didn't, here's all the news that I learned about him. He's a Kiowa American. He's an Oklahoma State product. He's a huge supporter of Native American youth sports. He actually won the NBA 2023-2024 Social Justice Champion Award. He went undrafted in 2020, then ended up in the Oklahoma City Blue, their G League team for 3 years, then ended up playing a little bit for OKC, then Golden State, then Detroit. Now he's with San Antonio. So I think we've kind of given thoughts on the deal, but thoughts on them signing a back end of the bench 14th roster spot guy like Lindy Waters to
I think they're bringing these guys to camp to see who can stretch the floor. Minix, Jones, Garcia, Waters, they're all going to be spot up 3-point shooters, and which ones they want on the floor that can be able to guard on the other end. And Waters is longer. None of these guys are going to make a huge difference. Think of them as replacing Malachi Branham, who barely played. So it's guys you need in a pinch, guys you need when injuries happen, and guys you can get on the cheap that can be able to give some good competition in practice.
Yeah, I was one of those guys that was holding out that maybe they were just holding on to these roster spots to maybe because there was some angling going on behind the scenes that they were going to try to make something work, and sure not looking like that's going to be the case.
But, they got 5.1 left on that biannual exception. Doug McDermott signed for Sacramento for $3.6 million. Why not bring a Doug McDermott type back? He's a proven guy who can shoot the three. Now, Doug wasn't great here because they had to have him do more. But if he could just be that sniper, I'm wondering if there's still somebody out there at 5.1.
Yeah, but here's the thing. Even if you bring in a sniper, when's he going to play?
Yeah.
Well, like if he snipes well, he will play.
But they're not going to get on the floor. The Spurs right now are hoping that all of the guys on the active roster, their top 10 that they had last year and that they have brought in with Harrison and Sohan and Keldon and everybody, Vassell, Fox, you name it, they're hoping that everybody shoots at least 2% better from behind the arc. That's what they're holding out hope for, because they don't have the minutes. There's not enough minutes to go around for another person.
That's true.
They need to get all these guys. Dylan Harper's going to play. Carter Bryant's going to play probably. Champagny is the guy that's kind of the odd man out right now. And you could argue that he's the Spurs' best 3-point shooter.
Harrison Barnes too.
Harrison Barnes I don't know if Harrison's going to last the entire season with the team. Like, they have so many guys to get minutes for to see exactly how this roster is going to shape out that, we're talking about Lindy Waters and Jordan McLaughlin and DJG and Riley Minix. And those guys are literally never going to see the floor except for when there's a blowout one way or the other.
So to me, the big question of the season, with Pop being gone and Mitch coming in, Pop was good at two things, right? I mean, his X's and O's.
Just two things.
We saw him change the game from being a 75-point champion against the Pistons to beating the Phoenix Suns at 7 seconds or less and scoring 130, right? So he was able to change and adapt X and O wise. The other thing that Pop was really good at was the psychology piece, like Phil Jackson. He convinced Manu Ginobili and the entire country of Argentina to let Manu come off the bench. And he navigated things like benching Tony Parker for Speedy Claxton, but not losing Tony for the next season or whatever, and alienating him and him wanting to go somewhere else. He handled Steven Jackson, who was a complete nut job. There was a lot of psychology stuff that Pop was good at. Can Mitch Johnson come in and connect to Devin, Jeremy, and Keldon, who were used to, those three guys over the last 5 years have been the guys.
Integral parts of the team.
Right. Can he convince them to be integral parts of the team at a lesser role and defer to Castle, Wemby, Harper, Fox? And if he can get Devin Vassell to be a Lou Dort or an Alex Caruso, he's got more talent than those guys, and he could be a very key piece, so, mentally, or will they sulk? And I think that's going to be the huge question of this team is how does Mitch handle these personalities? Because they're deep and they've got a lot of really good players if they all agree to play a role.
I think that's the key to the whole thing. They have to learn to play together. What that looks like is probably really possession to possession. If you play the right way, if you move the ball, you run certain plays for certain guys, but you just got to go play. And then if, Victor ends up with 25 one night and Keldon ends up with 23 the next night or whatever it's going to look like on a given night, De'Aaron Fox scoring 31 night, and maybe it's a little different the next night because somebody's clamping down on them. I mean, the better they learn to play together and the quicker they do that, the harder it will. You want to have 5 guys on the court that can do everything and therefore make it hard to defend. If it's just going to be one guy, then that's easy to stop in this league no matter what.
Well said. Last thing I want to talk about when it comes to the Spurs, Chris Paul signing with the Los Angeles Clippers, the Lob City, going back to those kinds of days. I kind of want to see Blake Griffin and DeAndre Jordan back too, just for old time's sake at this point. They're already running a retirement home in LA with the LA Clippers right now. So why not just bring those guys back too? He did play all 82 games for the Spurs last season. The writing was kind of on the wall for Chris Paul that he wasn't going to be back this season because of everything that the Spurs have and everything we've been talking about already with how young this roster got. But wanted to spend just a couple of minutes here because I think, at least speaking for myself, I think that the impact Chris Paul will have on this team will be felt for years because of what he did for Wemby and what he taught De'Aaron Fox and especially what he taught Stephon Castle and Devin Vassell and Keldon Johnson. The way that him and Harrison Barnes imparted their veteranism, I'll just say, on those guys will have a big impact on their careers, whether it's here or in other places.
For sure. He was great while I was here. I was worried when they first signed him that, you hoped that he would be what he said he would be when he had the conversation with Pop. He was all of that and more. I never expected in a million years he'd play 82 games. And, I think he was a lot. I mean, he admits it,
he's always a lot.
He never stops talking. And I think he's a good 1-year guy that, if he comes back for a second year, some of these young guys might start to tune him out, but I think he served his purpose. And to me, him and Harden and Kawhi, that's going to be fun to watch.
Bradley Beal.
Yeah, that's going to be. Because
fun to watch or hard to watch?
Hard, like fun to watch it implode.
That they might not play a regular season game together.
True, but remember when he was with Harden and Westbrook in Houston, and I mean everybody was ready to give him a championship, and they couldn't get along.
Well, I would argue that Chris Paul and James, if Chris Paul's hammy held up in that series against the Golden State, they would have won that series. They had Golden State dead to rights. I don't know what year that was, 2017 maybe?
No, they didn't. You know why? Because James Harden was on that team, and James Harden is a loser.
They were going to win that game 6.
Well, I doubt it.
Anyway.
Yeah.
We can go back
and
James Harden all day.
James Harden is never going to win.
Don't talk about my Sun Devil like that.
He's
Chuck. CP3.
I don't know that he's going to get enough credit for what he did on the court. I mean, we can talk about mentoring, showing guys how to be pros, that kind of stuff. But, the fact that this guy on this team with as few wins as they had last year, when you add up, what did he do on the court? He was on the positive side of the ledger last year. And there's only 3 guys on that team that can say that in terms of plus minus. So I think it went beyond just being the old guy. He was a glue guy in a lot of ways. And I think they're going to miss him on the court, especially early on when they're trying to figure out how to replace his minutes and then replace whatever it was that he did when he was on the court.
I don't think replacing his minutes is going to be too hard. De'Aaron Fox is just going to slide right into those, and Dylan Harper will slide right into those. So I think the minutes are filled. The impact mentally is more questionable, I guess.
Well, I mean, let me put it this way: quality minutes.
Fair enough.
Not to say that De'Aaron Fox isn't going to give them quality minutes, but there's going to be an adjustment now.
Chris Hoffman filling in for Bob Gambert over there. Anything from these social feeds before we get to the Cowboys?
Not really. I mean, you got some people, loving the Devin and Keldon. They think they're going to finish games like Manu, and I guess they're liking the signings.
All right. Love it. Love to see it. Let's talk about the Cowboys here for a second. So I want to start with Micah and Trayvon on Jerry Jones and Stephen Jones's comments. Let's hear the bite first, and then we'll give our thoughts. This is Micah Parsons on Tuesday, about 24 hours after the State of the Cowboys address.
I'm doing this for myself and my teammates. Like I said, this isn't for Jerry. This isn't for Steven. Nothing can hold me back from football. You know what I mean? Like, this is genuinely what I love to do. And if anyone questions that, they probably have never been around me. I take everything I do very seriously. So holding out completely, I don't think so. Like I said, I love this game. There's nothing that's going to keep me away from this game. And it is what it is if it ever gets to that point.
Micah also went on to say that if this is it with the Cowboys, then so be it. And then Adam Schefter went on 105.3 The Fan in Dallas yesterday and said, quote, Micah probably went further than he should have in a solo way, thinking he was doing a good thing, and it actually was counterproductive in the long term of getting a deal done. So general thoughts, guys, of the saga that refuses to end.
Same time next year.
Yeah.
Michael Parson will get his deal before the first game, and he'll get $42 million a year average, and he will become the highest paid non-quarterback
Until the next one.
since TJ Watt. And this will be all over with. We know how this ends. This is just silliness.
Yeah, I'm just disappointed that, again, here we are, same time next year, third year in a row where, yes, the player is under contract. So, technically speaking, if somebody wanted to hold his feet to the grinder, right, he would be out there practicing. However, if anybody deserves to get paid a bag and a big bag, it's 11, right? So I can see that side of it. But what's disappointing to me is that this is what the offseason's for, right? And if we didn't see this every single year where you've got essentially a brand new team, a new head coach, they go through their first day of practice. We see some really nice wow moments during the first day of practice. And then what do we have? Well, because Jerry said what he said the day before, then Mike obviously feels like he's got to go out and at least tell his story. So he starts with NFL Network, and then he talks to the group. And, you got 7 in there for even more
Moral support.
And then, then that brings, that side of the story into the equation. It's just really disappointing that we're talking about stuff like this when we should be talking about the product on the field. I mean, I get the soap opera aspect of it. I'm all for the soap opera aspect of it. I just don't know that they necessarily need it right now as a team as they try to figure it out. And we talked about all the bonding that they did, between position groups, players, front office staff. And yet here we are on day one. This grabs every headline imaginable. It grabs every headline imaginable the next day as well. ESPN filled a whole day for them the very next day. It's just disappointing. We don't need it. I mean, we got football to talk about. We can be starting to, position models and stuff like that.
Go ahead, Don.
Howie Roseman had a press conference yesterday in Philadelphia, and he said, our goal with the Eagles is to draft, develop, and sign. And we tell every player when they get here, you can look at this guy who we drafted, developed, and now he's going to have generational wealth for his family for the rest of his life. And we're going to take care of you, do the right things on and off the field, and become a good player. We will reward you. And every year with Jerry, it's just the opposite. It's draft, develop, and then let me cause some sort of drama. I mean, how do you have drama with Zach Martin when this guy is the guy that top 5 Cowboy of all time, Ring of Honor, first ballot Hall of Famer, and you put him through the stuff and talk bad about him at the beginning of training camp, and then the things that he said the other day about he threw Dak under the bus, like you want, like the players want to get hurt, it's just and I talked about it with Chuck this morning, or Jerry's a genius and this is his way of strengthening the bond between Micah and Shoddy, because Shoddy can come in as the cool, good guy and, hey, don't worry about Jerry. He's a jerk, and we're all in this in the foxhole together, us against the world. And maybe Jerry's trying to help Shoddy out in that regard by playing the bad guy. But I don't think so. I think Jerry does this because Jerry loves the circus. He thinks it's cute because it's worked for so many years, but I think the act is tired.
I try and look at things through the lens of a fan in most scenarios because that's how we all grow up as a fan, and then we end up doing this for a living. I'm a fan of the Broncos, and so yesterday the Broncos were asked, and Sean Payton was asked about a couple of contracts. He says, we're not going to tell you guys about that. It's handling it internally. We're fine. Players were asked. They're not going to talk about it in the media. I waffle between what I would prefer as a fan. Do I want them to talk about it in the media or do I not? And I think I'm erring towards the side of just shut the hell up and get it done. Like, let's just move on to the football aspect of this. We wait 6 months to talk about football and to see what happens in training camp and what position battles are going to go on. I would much rather talk about the defense and who's going to fill the nickel spot when Deron Bland inevitably goes down and when Trayvon Diggs comes back and what the running back battle is like, then talk about Micah Parsons reacting to Jerry Jones's comments again. It's such a tired act at this point because we do it every single year. And yet we're all still talking about it. And we're going to every time. I just give us some new drama at least if you're going to create drama.
Come up with a new act.
Come up with a new act. Yeah. I've seen this play before. We know how it ends. You're going to pay him. We know how this ends. It happens every freaking year. It's happened every year. It's seemingly since 1992.
And in the meantime, you're risking injury because he's not going to be in football shape. You're risking chemistry like CeeDee Lamb last year. Zach Martin said it hurt him when he wasn't there. It hurt the coordination of the offensive line. It hurt him personally. CD timing was off all year with Zach because they didn't have camp.
But here's the thing also with injury is I think that only hurts the team. It doesn't really hurt Micah Parsons because God forbid Micah Parsons gets injured. Let's just say season-ending injury. I don't want to even specify what it would be. He's still going to get it back. Unless it's a career-ending injury, which is rare with modern medicine, if he has a season-ending injury and the end of his Cowboys tenure is with him getting carted off the field, he's still going to become the highest-paid defensive player in the NFL. Well, it might cost him $1 million or $2 million. Yeah. It's not going to cost him $10 million per year on a contract. Him being there and him competing and him being in training camp it makes him look a lot better than it makes Jerry Jones.
The problem with that though is because there's no guaranteed contracts. Like Micah Parsons, you can't take any risk at this point. And so, the fact that he is at least in camp tells me a lot about the guy. I mean, he's not doing much, obviously, but I think that says something about him. And, hopefully they'll figure out a way to get this done. But you're right. It's a tired game, and it's time to figure out something else to garner attention.
Other camp observations. Let's move on past that. We don't have to talk about Trayvon Diggs. He expressed that he was frustrated with the Cowboys' frustration with him. So, that's just is what it is at this point. Other camp observations through the first 2 days going into today. Schottenheimer obviously talking right now as we record this.
I feel like the league knows what happens when I'm healthy and I have Dak for a whole season. But if you don't, I will happily show you what it's going to be like this year. Honestly, I'm a dominant receiver. I don't like to speak highly of myself, but I can't wait to show you guys.
That was obviously what CeeDee Lamb said yesterday, and a fiery comment from him. I love to see it because last year he was hampered by that shoulder injury that knocked him out for the final couple of weeks, and it was just
last year he was hampered because Dak couldn't throw the ball in his area code.
Well, Dak wasn't throwing him the ball for half the season.
Well, true, but even when he did, he couldn't. Remember how frustrated CeeDee's been really frustrated with Dak the last few times we've seen him on the field. Either it's timing,
but he was also frustrated because he hurt his shoulder and he got slammed down.
He addressed some of that yesterday where he admitted that he wasn't running his routes precisely enough for Dak. And he took ownership of a lot of things that happened last year and said, hey, it was me and I've had to grow and learn. And so, what the quarterback is seeing and that, even if you miss one step in your route, what that can do when somebody's barreling down on the quarterback's ass and
Throws off the timing.
Yeah. So, to me, I thought what was fascinating about listening to him start to finish yesterday was, man, he sounds like a grown ass adult that's been in the league for 30 years. I mean, something happened with him this offseason. I think he's ready to take probably the next step in the leadership realm. And I mean, he just sounds like a really mature guy. Despite his age.
He's
completely
looking at that
agree.
deposit slip every 2 weeks.
Well, some guys go the other way though, right?
I think that this George Pickens trade has done wonders for CD. One, his attitude. I think it showed him that like what can happen when you have a true number 2 on your team. And it's a 1A is what they'll say, but it's a true number 2 on your roster, which is great. They haven't had that since CD's rookie year with Amari Cooper, and then they traded Amari Cooper away, and now he's been the number 1, and he deserves to be number 1. He is a top, just to be completely conservative, top 10 receiver in this league. He's probably closer to top 5.
So where's Pickens?
Pickens is a top 25 receiver in this league, but Brandon Cooks is no George Pickens.
Correct.
So having those two guys, I think the excitement for seeing those two guys opposite one another and what the offense can be with those two is growing every single day of training camp.
Can Pickens in the right offense be as good as CeeDee Lamb?
100%. And if Pickens does it this year, then then he's going to get paid next year.
100%. And, I don't want to slight Brandon Cooks either because, Brandon Cooks was playing through a lot of stuff. I mean, staph infections on surgically repaired knees that, he was having in season. I mean,
it's no dig at Brandon Cooks, but
yeah, I mean, he wasn't the same
George
guy.
Pickens is a better receiver.
So we'll see what happens. I'm curious to see what Brandon does in New Orleans this year if he's healthy.
Yeah, back in New Orleans, homecoming for him as well.
Yeah.
Other 2 observations real quick. Cowboys camp, they had 2 fights in 2 days. Usually that happens like 3 weeks in to a training camp, not 2 days into the training camp. This one got so bad that Brian Schottenheimer was like, next person who throws a punch, you're out. Any thoughts on that happening at training camp?
Yeah,
this early on?
100%, right? I mean, you've been in camps before,
it's
right?
Weird.
Do you ever remember when people getting this itchy this soon, especially when the weather's pretty nice by all accounts,
it's not
and
hot.
overcast?
When I played, it was I was the fighter in training camp because
but
it took a few weeks. It took a few weeks.
So yeah, I mean, I'm surprised, especially with all of the stories being written about the brotherhood and the camaraderie and but there was also talk about the competition, right? Everything is a competition. So at some point, maybe we shouldn't be surprised if they put this much of an emphasis on competition, because that's a hard thing to draw the line. We hear a lot how these coaches now have had to train players how to practice in today's day and age. Like, because you want to be competitive, but you don't want anybody going to the ground. And that's where the coaches really get pissed off.
There should be a class, or at least like a couple of minutes from the coaches of like how you fight in training camp. Because I will never understand why people throw punches at somebody with the helmet on. Whenever I fought in camp, I would try and at least rip the helmet off and then throw a punch so I don't break my hand. Like, you can't see red and just start throwing punches at helmets.
Well, we had a helmet ripped off yesterday.
Yeah, you're gonna break your hand if you try and punch someone in the face with the helmet on. Like, your hand is not stronger than that, I promise you.
Yeah.
I've seen somebody break their hand in college before. It's not a pretty sight, especially when the coach is like, "You are a freaking idiot." So, and everyone runs because of it. So, if you're gonna fight in training camp, at least try and rip the helmet off or go after someone without a helmet on. So that's my
or do it like
cents.
Lamar Lathan used to do. Remember the old Oiler, that big beastie guy? I saw him. It was the saddest thing. Spencer Tillman, you guys know the broadcaster, Spencer Tillman. But when Spencer was a running back at Oklahoma, very good, came to the Houston Oilers. He decided to challenge Lamar Lathan for some reason. And Lamar Lathan picked him up and body slammed him like he was a 3-year-old and got on top of him and was choking him out basically. And they had to split him apart. And Spencer Tillman, for some reason, thought, I can't back down, or he thinks I'm a wuss. So he's talked again, and he ran after Lamar Lathan again. And Lamar turned around, picked him up like a rag doll, threw him down, body slammed him to the ground, jumped on top of him, started choking him out until people pulled him off. Spencer went for a 3rd time. Same thing happened. Lamar Lathan never had to throw a punch. And I just was thinking, and we also saw that dude with his shirt off. That's the biggest, baddest man I've ever seen in my life.
Speaking of big, bad men who body slam other men, RIP to Hulk Hogan.
Yeah.
That just came out a couple hours ago. The Hulkster dead at 71 after a cardiac arrest at his home in Florida. So RIP to one of the greatest wrestlers of all time.
Yeah, I mean, we have a couple of IDs from him, and I mean, the guy, I don't think he ever said no to anybody, was always super friendly. You know, he had this persona, tough guy in the ring. And the remarkable thing I always found fascinating about Hulk Hogan is if you say to him, "Hey, Hulk, would you do something nice for our sports show?" and say, "Hey, I'm Hulk Hogan, you're watching Maximum Sports." He would go into some dynamic shtick that he had on the ready, and what you gonna do? And he would nail it on the first take. And it was always something different every single time he did it. I mean, the guy was absolutely amazing. And I mean, I think on a lot of levels speaks to, you know, his ability to, you know, cognitively put things together. I mean, there was a lot inside that guy upstairs, and, you know, not just what he looked like and what he brought to the entertainment
He
world.
played a great character.
Yeah.
He was one of the greatest entertainers of all time, and not just one of the greatest wrestlers of all time. Like his character of Hulk Hogan never went away. That persona, he just embodied the very shirt ripping off. What you gonna do, brother? Like all of that stuff. It was just, it was great.
Never once took a performance enhancing drug. Right.
Nudge, nudge. What counts as a performance enhancing drug?
Winnestrol, what did they call it?
You would have needed a horse tranquilizer to take him down at a certain point. Anyway, that's all we got.
Tan. He always had a great tan.
He always had a great tan and half of a head of hair.
And a nice man too.
Yeah, very
That's
much.
what I think he'll be remembered for the most. Anybody that encountered him, unless you were Andre the Giant or something.
Yeah. Oh, they're giving each other a big hug in heaven today. So remember to download, rate, review, subscribe, give us a 5-star rating, tell a friend, tell an enemy. We will be back. Actually, I won't be. Chuck and Don will be back on Monday with more. See you then.